Hump day, let's go. Welcome to Frontline, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast, and President Trump is celebrating America 250 in style, taking the brand new Qatari gifted Air Force One on its maiden presidential flight to North Dakota, where he dedicated the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library, honoring one of America's most iconic presidents, one of my faves too. Plus, John Brennan suddenly wants to make sure every record is preserved. The former CIA director is suing the Trump administration as investigations into his own conduct continue. Funny how he wants transparency now. And a search is underway for a missing U.S. Navy air crewman following an emergency water landing in the Arabian Sea. The crew was flying in an MH-60 helicopter. They say there's no indication that the landing was caused by hostile action, and 4 of the 5 crew members have been recovered and are said to be okay. But first, August 8th. That's the last day you can pass the Save America Act and it still be effective in these midterm elections. Get to work, John Thune. Let's do this. If the birthright citizenship decision taught us anything, we have to crack down on illegals here now. J.D. Vance weighed in on this today on how bad this really is.
Do I think she made a mistake in the ruling? I do. I don't think that's what the framers of the 14th Amendment had in mind. I don't think it's the right case. But look, it was 5-4. Sometimes the Supreme Court makes mistakes. We're going to try to correct that mistake, but nobody's perfect, including the Supreme Court.
It definitely wasn't what the framers had in mind. We showed you yesterday what the author of the 14th Amendment said. He said, quote, "This will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners or aliens. But in the meantime, I like the steps the DOJ is taking starting today, where they are launching a crackdown on birth tourism. And we know it's happening with people from countries that hate us. Here from today."
From a Department of Justice standpoint, it's obviously focusing our prosecutors and our law enforcement partners on birthing tourism, and it's a booming industry. And what we have to do as the Department of Justice is make sure our agents, our HSI agents that we work with and the FBI are focused on stopping that. And that's what we're going to do.
Just like 2 years ago, when Michael Wei Ye and Liu and Jing Dong, or whatever these people's names are, were each hit with a 41-month prison sentence. They ran a California-based company called USA Happy Baby Inc., which helped Chinese clients secure fake visas, hide their pregnancy from border agents, and then set up housing in the U.S. for these people. So yeah, this is needed. And it should be relatively easy to enforce, too, because, according to the CBP, when you enter the United States, you are asked point blank by an immigration official, or when you go here, anywhere, what is your purpose of travel here? And having a baby here is not a lawful reason for entrance into the U.S. or getting a U.S. visa, and the DOJ is not going after the parent only for fraud, but also any networks or businesses or whatever that is incentivizing or facilitating any of these things. I mean, great. So Trump has closed the border, figured out how to crack down on birth tourism. Now we need to get all these people the hell out of here. Just get them gone before it's too late, because if we don't get them out of here, they will start voting. Mark my words, they will start voting. They already do, despite what liberals say. There are tons of these examples. Just in June, like a few days ago, someone in New Jersey pled guilty to being a non-citizen and voting. His vote counted. Remember that. 4 more just before that. I think 30 since 2022 in just New Jersey that we found out about. I told you this immigration thing is a liberal move to take over our elections. You see, they are aborting themselves out of existence while conservatives are actually having families. I know, right? So to replace their purple-haired millennials and Gen Zers that don't have kids because they've all sterilized themselves into transgender surgeries, they have to import voters. And the way they do that is right in front of our faces. Did you know that 24 states, including the District of Columbia, have automatic voter registration when you get a driver's license? There they are, scrolling right there on your screen. Did you know what the defense is for most of the people who are actually caught voting illegally in our elections? They say, oh, I didn't know. I thought I was allowed to because they automatically registered me. That's literally the defense of the last guy who was just convicted in New Jersey. So Congress maybe should add this to the Save America Act. No more automatic voter registration. Maybe make it as hard to vote, register to vote as it is to, I don't know, get a gun permit. It's the same right. And then we actually need to pass the damn thing as well. We have until about August 8th, as I said, to pass the Save America Act in order for it to be implemented by this midterm election. And actually, Mike Lee, okay, God bless this guy, he sat down with one of our favorites, Ashley Brassfield, over at the Daily Caller, and gave a really great perspective on how to get this done. Ram it through just like the Civil Rights Act under LBJ and just like Obamacare under Barack Obama. The only difference under LBJ, Democrats were still at that point, like 40, 50 years ago, were still somewhat reasonable. Now you're dealing with a bunch of crazy ideologues that are socialists. So you got to like really force the issue. And the way they did it under or how LBJ wanted to do it, fully open the floor and keep it open around the clock and vote after vote after vote after vote and force people to stand there and oppose this until it passes. Take the whole thing live on C-SPAN. I think the Civil Rights Act took like 50 days. Now, and there was some softer touch by the Senate. They were preserving the dignity of the Senate, and so they let people go home and like take a shower every once in a while. But you have to do it this way, otherwise it'll never pass. John Thune won't do this because he's a coward. So this is where you get in like Obamacare. You inform him, well, Mr. John Thune, you will be primaried if you don't do this. This is what they told every single Democrat opposing Obamacare. People were like, I'm going to lose my seat. They were like, don't care. At this point, Republicans need to do what Democrats do literally every election cycle, especially recently. They hold auditions for a new candidate right in front of everyone's face so people know who's about to replace them. And there's nothing they can do about it because they flood the field with money. And if John Thune won't do it, you pressure the Senate to replace him too with the same mechanism. Guys, check this out. This is what Democrats did. They told the people that, look, you're going to vote for Obamacare. And if you don't, if you're worried about losing your seat, don't worry. We got a guaranteed squishy job for you. Check these people out. Barron Hill, okay, this guy voted yes for Obamacare, lost his seat right after that in 2010, just went right in and joined lobbying consulting firms, worked in government relations and healthcare policy advising. The dude lost his seat because of bad healthcare policy when advising high six-figure salaries. Stephanie Sandlin lost, became a lobbyist, consultant, and joined major law firm, government relations and practice. Also served on corporate boards. Brad Ellsworth lost after Obamacare vote, took roles in consulting, local business, government affairs. John Brokachiry, I don't know, whatever, he lost. Transitioned to private consulting and business development roles. Kathy, whatever that name is, lost, worked in consulting, nonprofit leadership, higher compensation package. I mean, these people were making like 4 times what they made as their congressional seat after they got out. Alan Grayson lost, then won again in 2013, founded successful investment hedge fund related venture, like capital ventures and things like that. The people who invested are kind of like his donors too. Very high earnings for him. Travis Childers lost, moved into business and consulting. Folks, this is what the left did to get the votes for Obamacare. This is the machine. Those were just a few examples of some of the 60-something people who lost their seat in the 2010 midterms. They went to work for big lobbying firms, and they got major donors on board with it, and then they got paid. So how about, I don't know, just floating this one out there. Hey, Elon, will you please employ every senator that loses their seat because of a vote for the Save America Act for, I don't know, like $500,000 a year, guaranteed for 5 years as a no-show job? I bet he would. That's a rounding error for him. You want to make an omelet? Dude, you got to break some eggs. And the Save America Act is worth breaking all the eggs. I don't care how many so-called Republicans we're very angry with this tactic, Carl. I don't care if it's the last legislation Trump ever gets passed. Because if we don't get this passed and the Democrats take control in the midterms, you know what they're going to do? They're going to impeach Trump like 591 times, so he can't get anything else done. Then they're going to subpoena everyone for no reason and bankrupt people in just legal expenses like they did to Mike Flynn. And then they're going to take control of this country through lawfare, and Republicans won't win another election until the next civil war breaks out. So how about the Save America Act? Kentucky Congressman James Comer, sir, I don't know how much simpler it could be, and your Republican colleagues ain't doing a good job.
I agree with everything you're saying. I'm buying what you're selling, and I'm for you, Carl, for a U.S. Senate seat in any of the 50
in
states.
Connecticut, man. Yeah, right.
we need you. You would work well with Mike Lee and Ted Cruz and some of the other good guys we've got there. But you're absolutely right. We're frustrated in the House. We're probably not in session today in Washington because there's so many people upset over the inaction of the Senate to pass the Save America Act. And you mentioned the Democrats that lost after they voted to pass Obamacare. I can't imagine any Republican losing because they voted to require a valid ID to be able to vote. I mean, that's just not a foreign concept. So hopefully something will happen. I know the president's really putting a lot of pressure on the Senate, but like you say, the clock's ticking.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We've got till about August 8th is what they're saying the date for implementation is. Do you have any inside baseball on whether or not they're actually going to get the talking filibuster, open it wide open, blow the I mean, they're going to blow the filibuster. Why don't we?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the point. And I don't think the filibuster was envisioned to be able to create a situation where the Senate has ground to a halt. And that's what you have here, whether it's appropriations and having constant government shutdowns. I mean, we have to reevaluate the rules of the Senate. I think the senators need to do like we do in the House and limit the debate. You can have a senator go on the floor and talk for 30 hours. 30 hours, that's a whole week in the Senate, the way their rules are. So there are a lot of reforms that need to happen in the Senate. And I think that these new younger senators that are getting elected, that are running these races in both parties, are campaigning that they're going to make some reforms in the U.S.
No, it is crazy to me. I want to talk about some reforms. Obviously, you've been a guy who's been chasing after a couple things, and your colleague, soon to be unseated, Thomas Massie, posted on the passing of his resolution to expose the congressional slush fund that we've had you on to talk about. He wrote, transparency is essential to the operation of government, and Americans have a right to know if their taxpayer dollars settled congressional sexual misconduct claims. I introduced my resolution to expose the slush fund yesterday. It passed 420-0 with one person voting present, which was Nancy Mace. I want to know, Nick, because Nancy Mace was really trying to get to the bottom of this too. Why did she vote present?
She voted present because she was frustrated because we've already released the dollar amount and the names of the members of Congress that were in the slush fund. Nancy was the one that led that charge. And there were 7 members of Congress, 4 Democrats and 3 Republicans, if I remember correctly. It was somewhere around $1 million, which is too much, but that's over 20 years. And I think a lot of the media accounts, a lot of media networks didn't cover it thoroughly because in the leading up to it, they were saying that there was going to be 20 or 30 or 40 or $50 million and half the members of Congress were going to be on this. Most of the people that and we didn't name those names, and I don't know if the Massey bill will require to name them, and I think they should be named too, were staffers and Capitol Police officers and people like that got in a sexual harassment situation. So everything needs to come out, but that's why Nancy was frustrated, because we had done it and it didn't get a lot of press because it wasn't a big dollar amount. It wasn't that many members of Congress.
So we are now going to let the other people in there, correct?
Yeah, I think that's what that bill is, and I was one of the 420 that voted for it. I'm all for that. Let everybody deserves to know where their tax dollars are being spent. Yeah. So
do you know those names right now, sir?
They were all before I came to Congress, except one, Blake Farenthold from Texas. And
I'm saying the staffers.
I don't know the staffers. So I would like to know, but I don't know the staffers.
All right. Well, we're going to find out. We're going to get you back on for that. The other thing is, can we claw some of that money back somehow?
I doubt it. I wish we could. That's why the bills that we're passing out of the Oversight Committee on fraud prevention are important. And the Democrats are screaming bloody murder on the House floor once every one of these bills are passed, and who knows what's going to happen in the Senate. But you've got to stop the money before it goes out the door, because once it goes out the door, the success rate that the federal government has at clawing back fraudulent payments is about zero.
Yeah.
So Trump has rightfully put a stop on a lot of Medicaid payments to states like Minnesota and California. And you have their Democrat governors and the Democrat members of Congress screaming to high heavens. But that needs to happen, because we'll never claw that money back, especially with so much of it being converted to crypto and so much of it's going to foreign countries. This is a scheme by a lot of people to defraud the government. And finally, we've got an administration that's doing something about it.
It seems easier to defraud the government than it is to register a car right now. Congressman James Comer, we appreciate it, sir.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, coming up. If you thought socialism hadn't already taken hold inside the Democrat Party, well, think again. It got even stronger. I'm going to break it down for you in just a sec. But first, move over White House physician Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, the least healthy man in politics aside from, I don't know, the former governor of New Jersey, has his own diagnosis for President Trump because he's in a position to give health advice. Unfiltered is back, baby. We got that next.
Federal agencies urge every family to have an emergency radio. During any disaster, electrical power may get cut. The emergency radio gives you the vital information you need. Newsmax wants you to have the Dynamo Emergency Band Radio. It doesn't need batteries and works in any emergencies. It retails for $30. You can get it with the free offer. Call or go online and get the emergency radio today. Your life may depend on it.
Where's the admission desk at your hospital? You may need it sooner than you think. It's the middle of the night and you, your spouse, or your child is sick, high fever, can't keep anything down, and getting worse. Now you're waiting in the ER, and everyone gets seen before you. And when I finally see you and order prescriptions, you still have to wait for your pharmacy to open and hope they have what I prescribed. This is the medical emergency kit. It's stocked with essential medications, including amoxicillin, generic Z-Pak, and ivermectin. Now you have the right medications when you need them. And it's why I and so many of my colleagues have medical emergency kits. It's like having an urgent care and pharmacy in your home. Just fill out a brief online medical intake and your kit, prescribed by a licensed provider, is shipped to your door. Here's how to order.
Order your kit now and save $45. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news. That's urgentcarekit.com/news.
The pain is gone. It's gone. I was wheeled in. I couldn't even move 5 feet without the wheelchair. I was in awful pain.
Are you able to get onto the bed?
I doubt it.
No?
We went through the whole intake interview, did the MRI, x-rays. I was awake through the surgery, came back to recovery. I was there for 10 minutes, and I got up and I walked.
Bonatti succeeds where others fail.
Ruh-roh, we're back with Unfiltered. No topics are off. Well, some topics are off limits, but most aren't. NPR thought it had the scoop that Justice Samuel Alito was retiring instead, but it may have just exposed its own source. The retirement report has completely fallen apart, and now there's growing speculation that the story was intentionally planted as a trap to identify a leaker inside the Supreme Court. Because remember, we never found out who the leaker on the Dobbs decision was. This is like a Uno reverse card. Co-host of American Agenda, Bob Brooks, and host of Rob Schmitt tonight. Ironically, Rob Schmitt.
Yeah, who would have thought?
Weird.
But it's you.
Yes. Is this a leaker? Did they expose a leaker?
That was a really bad leak, right? And then there's obviously something going on in the court. It would make kind of perfect sense because the whole story of what happened with this, this woman that claimed that Alito was retiring and then they retracted it so quickly. Nothing about it made any sense. Who would run with something like that based off of the story that she claimed?
You mean who would run a false story?
Yeah, well, who would, based off of that, it's like it would be a huge lapse, in if there is journalistic integrity in that organization, that would be
kind of has to be a leak.
Yeah.
The
Like an
woman who
intentional
did it is
leak.
up in her 80s. She's been at this game a long time. It's not like you just on hearsay. Oh, you're running into the court. And I ever heard somebody say Justice Alito's retiring, and she consulted with the intern.
Yeah.
She's like,
And they immediately threw it out.
yeah.
Well, she said she misheard. It's like,
I don't know.
That's a pretty big mishear.
That's probably like the biggest misheard of all time.
It would be a brilliant way to find whoever is leaking all of this. I mean, that Dobbs leak was bad. That was a really big
told
deal.
her.
Yeah.
Somebody told her Alito had to have, and then they ran with it.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Maybe there's going to be somebody thrown out of the court here soon.
All right, so we got big J.B. Pritzker, okay, apparently found time to play doctor. Watch this.
And is continually suffering from dementia. I don't think he really understands what he's saying.
Do you really think the president has dementia?
I do. I think if you look at any of the videos from 2015 or 2016 and look at how he responded to questions and how he was at press conferences, and then you fast forward and look at him now, I really think that there's something genuinely wrong with him.
Before we go any further, I did bump into Caitlin Collins in the airport, and the first thing she asked me was, do I know Rob Schmitt?
Ooh.
No, never heard of the guy. But seriously,
quite a few girls have asked me.
I love how
Schmidt's network?
Yeah, exactly. You've got, I can't go anywhere with that. Everybody knows Rob Schmitt. So you've got now J.B. Pritzker commenting on health. You've got the UN health ambassador that's larger than my engine block. You've got the Finland and Poland, like all these health administrators are not healthy.
It's so absurd. The claim that Trump has dementia, I mean, again, how often do we see him just take 15 or 20 hostile random questions and answer all of them, and yet he has dementia? And by the way, in that soundbite, they clipped it right before Pritzker said, I'm not a doctor, but I just think he has dementia. And you know what? J.B. Pritzker is not only not a doctor, he's not anything. He's rich because his family was smart and rich. And all I can surmise is that for the past 55 years, he's just been eating and spending his family's money buying political seats and political positions. And now he's going to try to buy a presidency with his family.
What does President Trump say about Chris Christie? I'm not going to call Chris Christie a fat pig.
But
I'm not going to call J.B. Pritzker a fat pig. Obviously, he's not a doctor. Just one look at him.
Unfiltered is back.
But you didn't do it. And
Trump
you said it with all
gave
due
a
respect.
speech today in North Dakota for an hour in like 90-degree weather.
In a business suit.
I think the guy's perfectly fine when it comes to his cognitive health.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. All right, the deputy mayor of Paris blaming Americans that our AC is to blame for their heat wave. I hate Europe so much, Bob.
I think about 25% of buildings have AC in France because of the regulations. I read that.
Imagine how hot.
Look, this is no joke. A bunch of people have died from this heat wave. So you want to talk about elected officials because of their regulations?
They have air conditioning, though.
Of course they do, and pool and everything else. Have made it so unbearable for their own people that their people are dying. I mean, that is the number one job of politicians, is to keep people safe, keep your citizens safe, and they're not. I mean, that's a disaster.
Yeah. Rob, I gotta get your take on this. We could actually see this from the window here.
Yeah.
Two morons decided on the hottest day of the year to dress in all black and climb like one of the highest points in New York City and propose. I don't know, like now they're going to jail.
Right. I think they're two Russians. They're like kind of stunt devils. They had the meaningless, flag that they posted too was just so generic and had no point. I think it was just attention. I think they probably make a lot of money off their Instagram doing stuff like this. They're acting like they're some kind of peace crusaders or something, and then they got engaged on top of the Empire State Building. And as they were coming down, the sick part of my brain was just like, watch one of them fall right now.
I would have just left them up there and been like, you know what? It's 100 degrees. You're in all black. You'll come down eventually on your own. We'll just arrest you then.
Yeah, they got him.
Must have really been in love with that girl too. Climbed to the top of the Empire State Building.
She was
you doing something like that?
Not a bad-looking girl.
She had a mouth. Of course, Rob Schmitt knows.
Yeah.
He went right to that radar. He was like, I don't even.
My team showed me when I walked in. They're like, look at the girl. I was like, wow. And she can climb a building. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Impressive. Bob,
Like the stunt.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it going.
All right.
Okay, coming up, the Justice Department under Trump making another big arrest, rooting out the violent Venezuelan terror group Tren de Aragua. One of the federal prosecutors bringing the group to justice. Going to join me next.
If you know luxury, it's not just award-winning, it's rewarding. Sattva mattresses support all types of sleepers with durable steel coils and plush organic cotton. Sattva luxury mattresses are handcrafted and assembled in American factories using globally sourced premium materials and brought directly to you with our complimentary in-home delivery and setup service. Sattva, luxury mattresses made affordable.
Attention! Do you owe money to the IRS? If you owe $10,000 or more, you must hear this message because new Trump-era tax policy changes are providing relief to the American taxpayer. IRS policy changes in 2025 and 2026 have created new ways to resolve debt. Tax Relief Helpers knows exactly how to navigate them and could help you save thousands. Just call 800-357-9528 to protect your assets, home, and retirement.
I owed $87,000 in taxes. Tax Relief Helpers got the amount I owed down to just $3,500. I saved $83,500.
I got behind on my taxes and I owed $48,000. I called, and after they told me about the changes at the IRS, they got my bill fully removed.
We save Americans millions of dollars in tax debt every year, and we can help you. Call right now to take advantage of the latest Trump-era tax deductions to protect your assets, home, and retirement from the IRS. The call and consults are absolutely free. Call 800-357-9528. That's 800-357-9528. Attention! Do you owe money to the IRS? If you owe $10,000 or more, you must hear this message because new Trump-era tax policy changes are providing relief to the American taxpayer. IRS policy changes in 2025 and 2026 have created new ways to resolve debt. Tax Relief Helpers knows exactly how to navigate them and could help you save thousands. Just call 800-357-9528 to protect your assets, home, and retirement.
I owed $87,000 in taxes. Tax Relief Helpers got the amount I owed down to just $3,500. I saved $83,500.
I got behind on my taxes and I owed $48,000. I called, and after they told me about the changes at the IRS, they got my bill fully removed.
We save Americans millions of dollars in tax debt every year, and we can help you. Call right now to take advantage of the latest Trump-era tax deductions to protect your assets, home, and retirement from the IRS. The call and consults are absolutely free. Call 800-357-9528. That's 800-357-9528.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dry premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
Hey, I'm Dr. Drupinski. I've been a physician for 4 decades. I've been looking at the aging process for a long time, and Fatty 15 is one product that actually slows it down. Fatty 15 comes out of Navy dolphin research. A brilliant veterinarian realized that dolphins get disease much like humans. She looked at what predisposed to those problems, isolated the molecule, gave it to the animals, they didn't get the problem. Without the C15, our cells become fragile and age and oxidize. This pushes that back. Cell health equals physical health. That's why I take Fatty 15.
Kids cannot play in parks or walk to the ice cream shop with their grandparents. Parents go to bed at night worried that stray bullets might hit their homes. The Trump administration has helped us return freedom back to our communities by systemically attacking and dismantling TDA, criminal enterprises, and other violent street gangs.
U.S. Attorney for North Texas Ryan Raybould today at the Justice Department press conference announcing charges against members of the violent Venezuelan terror street gang Tren de Aragua. The department charging 8 illegal alien TDA members with kidnappings and murders. And surprise, surprise, they all entered this country under Joe Biden. Weird. U.S. Attorney for North Texas Ryan Raybould, sir, huge development for you guys.
It is. Carl, thank you for having me. I'm very proud of our prosecutors in Northern District, and I really appreciate General Blanche's leadership in helping us dismantle this enterprise as it relates to North Texas. And more to come. We're continuing to investigate, but this is a huge win for the Department of Justice, a huge win for public safety. It's a huge win for the little girl that wants to walk down the street without fear.
Yeah, and so without, obviously you're not in a very political role. Your goal is to, prosecute people who are breaking the law. But, how many more of these do you have to see before people understand that this is a real threat to the United States of America?
My job is to protect every single citizen in the Northern District of Texas. That's 9 million people. And there is no one more aggressive than me and my team in putting them behind bars. And so however they came into this country, if they commit a crime, I'm going after them. And we do that in Northern District of Texas day in and day out with our federal, state, and local partners. And the one thing we're blessed with in North Texas is we all work together.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's one of these things now that we've seen where it's almost hard to keep up with how many times you guys are busting bad guys on like a day-to-day basis. Like it didn't used to be like this. I don't know how long you've been in this role, but it's been ramping up more and more over the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. And now to the point where we're here every day. You guys are arresting more and more people that shouldn't be here in the first place.
Millions came into our country illegally. A number of those folks actually didn't go to the ports of entry. They entered, they're called gotaways. They got in there. And unfortunately, some of them made their way to the Northern District of Texas. Well, that's bad for them because we charge them with crimes. We go after them. And in North Texas, they meet swift justice, which means very, very long prison sentences. So I can't rewrite the past, Carl. I have to deal with the present and try to make things better for the future.
Sure.
And my job is to protect North Texans. And illegals committing crimes in our backyards, they're going to go to prison for many, many years in North Texas.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, but Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche laid out some of the successes of this administration so far, targeting TDA since naming them a terror group. Actually, roll it.
In the 18 months since January 20th, and President Trump did that, nearly 350 members and associates of TDA have been charged and or convicted of horrific violent crime, murders, sex trafficking, kidnappings, along with weapons charges, drug trafficking, robbery, ATM jackpotting, and other widespread financial crimes.
How many people are estimated to be in TDA that's here in America, not just in Texas, but do you know nationwide? Like this seems to be a bigger problem than we thought.
Forgive me, Carl, I don't have those numbers, but what I can say is that we've charged nearly 350 of these through the Department of Justice and more to come. The couple things that this department, particularly under General Blanche's leadership, has been absolutely fantastic is, number one, we're breaking down barriers with state and local law enforcement. Those are the folks that are often the tip of the spear to identify these transnational gangs. And they're coming to us, the Department of Justice, and partnering with the FBI and HSI to take them down. The second thing is we're bringing to bear more and more federal resources. This president of the United States has made an effort to try to get rid of TDA. And I can tell you, we aren't stopping until it's over.
Yeah, well, Ryan, I'm really glad to hear that the state and federal lines are being, relaxed a little bit to help you guys out with this, because this is a huge problem. We appreciate your work very much, sir.
You bet, and thank you for all you did for our country as a Navy SEAL.
Yes, sir. All right, coming up, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson does it again, making a mockery of the Supreme Court, and it's worse than when she compared birthright citizenship to stealing a wallet in Japan. Culture Clash, next.
I'm Mr. H. We do not sell Amino 150 on eBay. There's more than 240 counterfeiters offering bogus Amino 150 on eBay. They copied our bottle label, even our website. None of it contains the 70 minerals that made Amino 150 famous. Now, do not purchase on eBay if you want Amino 150 instead of something that may contain talcum powder, baking flour, or ground up dirt. Zero nutritional value. Now, we do sell on Amazon, but be careful, because some counterfeiters come on there too. The counterfeit websites look just exactly like ours, so to be safe, I suggest you scan the QR code on the screen or call our toll-free number. Do this so that you can be guaranteed that you're getting the original Amino 150 that contains 70 plant-derived minerals instead of talcum powder or dirt. Thank you, and God bless.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. Please make a great gift. It's Trump time.
This isn't your
average pill. This is Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks.
Rose Sparks is a fast-acting solution because it dissolves under your tongue. Rose Sparks. Guys, get started today.
Connect with a provider to find out if Rose Sparks are right for you.
Ever wished you could brew your own beer, but figured it was too complicated, too messy, too much effort? Well, now you can. Meet Pinter, the home beer system everyone's talking about. Fresh beer, brewed and tapped by you. No fuss, no guesswork, just brew, chill, tap, done. And this summer of soccer, bring match day home with the limited edition USA Pinter. Keep fresh beer on tap for every big moment. Host the ultimate watch party and bring the stadium atmosphere home all tournament long. Fresh beer on tap for every big match. You don't need a sports bar for the ultimate summer of soccer, just a Pinter. Right now, get your limited edition Pinter free with our flexible beer plan and save $264. Tap into the world's best beer experience. Free Pinter. Freshly brewed beer. Zero fuss. Go to pinter.com/USA to claim your offer today.
Stop, check this out. Our most advanced performance frame, Talon, is out. It's a bestseller. We just got it back in stock, and I want to show you a little bit about it. This frame is an 8-base wrap, so it's going to sit close to your face, give you wide peripheral vision, stay on tight, but it also has a squared off lens for a versatile everyday look. And then you have comfort fit adjustable rubber nose pads for secure fit as well. These come with our signature lost and broken protection, and you can try them risk-free for 30 days. Check them out at shadyrays.com.
Like I said yesterday, the liberal Supreme Court justices and female suicidal empathy rubber-stamped the legalization of an invasion of America. Ketanji Brown Jackson really outdid herself on her opinion for birthright citizenship. A legal opinion from the Supreme Court written like a 13-year-old TikTok post. She wrote, here's one. Instead, to the majority, the power-hungry actors are, wait for it, the district courts. But this gets even worse. She then proceeds to write full stop 3 times. We're just like one session away from Jackson using LOL and an emoji in her next opinion. Unbelievable. Host of podcast Scrolling with Hayley, Hayley Caronia, and reporter for the Daily Wire, Brecca Stoll. Hayley, I just, do you use emojis when you're, writing a professional piece? I don't know.
No, I do not. And this is such a disgrace, honestly. She's a disgrace. Amy Coney Barrett was a disgrace on this decision. And honestly, I think that, call me crazy, but generations to come should be able to look back at these decisions and these opinions and not say, oh, this is when America had COVID-induced brain rot and they were all obsessed with TikTok. This should be professional. And of course, she cannot do this. She is not a biologist and she is not a wordsmith either.
Yeah, she doesn't, apparently not a great judge. Brecca, speaking of people who need their brains checked, New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani touted the next step to closing Rikers Island, writing, quote, by permanently closing a jail and transferring 3 properties to DCAS, we're moving closer to closing Rikers for good. Our city's resources should be invested in rehabilitation, restoration, and a smaller, more humane jail system. Now, keep in mind, Brecca, the same women who said safety was their biggest concern in the last election, they voted like 70% for the guy who just emptied a prison.
Well, and it doesn't really come as a surprise because when you look at who Zoran Mamdani just got elected, who will be the next congressman considering how blue her district is, but it's future Congresswoman Chevalier. And she says that prison should be abolished. And I actually talked to Curtis Sliwa about this very story today, the man with the red beret, and he reminded me that he was the only mayoral candidate who has been to Rikers. And he says Zoran Mamdani is going to have a plan for all these prisoners. He says they're mentally unstable and they have to, figure out where they're going to be released and housed in New York City.
Also, they didn't go to prison because they were they weren't nice people before they went in. They went to prison because they're criminals. Good luck, Manhattan. Look, this is why I carry a gun. All right, here's another one, Hayley. In honor of Pride Month being over, Keir Starmer with quite possibly the most accurate statement he's ever made.
I'm really proud that we got the gayest parliament. I don't think it's just of all time anywhere in the world. I don't think there's any parliament that is gayer than this one. That is fantastic.
Yes, you do have the gayest parliament in the world, UK.
He said the quiet part out loud there. I mean, I don't know why this is something that they are using as a badge of honor. It's become a badge of honor on the left here in the United States of America, on the left, and also across the pond. It's super embarrassing. So long as you are having sex with consenting adults, I think we should all get on board that we should just shut up about it. How's that?
Exactly. But they use this as like a currency. Brecca, this is a crazy story. And of course, it's a lady from Florida. Over the weekend, deputies arrested this woman named Reagan Cox for resisting an officer without violence during a traffic stop. As she was being processed, that's where things got like super weird. Okay, so after spotting what they're saying is an abnormality in the lower region, she was observed trying to cover her butt and with her hand, and they made her move her hand, and then a little baggie of drugs, 3.8 grams of cocaine, just pops out. Now she claims, she's like, I don't know anything about these drugs. Someone must have put it in me during an intimate encounter. What? The police department said, folks, if not realizing that someone left cocaine in your, what they're calling a jail purse, it's not good enough reminder to not do drugs, then I don't know what is. Brecca.
You know, Carl, as a journalist, there are a lot of stories I worked very hard to get all the details of and to get to the bottom of. This one, I don't want to know anymore. You know, this is just absolutely crazy. And I know we have a smuggling problem across the border. People are doing drugs. And if this is really the start to something, then I don't want to see it.
Haley, I don't always misplace my drugs, but if I do, that's where I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? This is a real story, Haley?
You know, the excuse the dog ate my homework is so much better than this one, rather than, you know, my lover sent me a parting gift and left it in my butt. Listen, they talk a lot about Florida man this, Florida man that. The Florida women, they are taking the cake on this one.
You guys got everything right down there. You got your taxes right. You got all your policies right. You got the right governor. And this is just the wrong woman. It's unbelievable.
Yep.
Yeah, well,
yep.
Haley, Brecca, appreciate it.
Thank
All
you.
right, folks, this past weekend, if you didn't notice, I was out Friday. So this past weekend, I hosted a few fellow vets at my farm for our third annual Voice of Valor series. You are not going to want to miss this conversation we had. You would actually kill to hear the conversations we had off cam. Check this out, though. Mark Morgan, Teddy Daniels, Jason Redmond. We spent basically the whole weekend up there just eating brisket and steak, shooting guns, running the sawmill, just out in the woods being ourselves. And we caught a bunch of it on camera. And some of the stuff we say is we can't air, but a lot of the stuff we will. And you're going to see that starting this Monday. Folks, it's going to be awesome. And then it's going to be a full hour special. We'll keep you posted when that's going to play as well. Coming up, just when you think the Democrats can't go any further left, a socialist unseats a 15-term Democrat congresswoman in Colorado. This is just the beginning, folks. My thoughts next.
My dad had never been in better shape. Then he had a stroke and passed away. But he had life insurance. So even after he was gone, he was still taking care of us. Ethos.com, 10 minutes, 100% online.
Check your price today at ethos.com.
It's me, Ricky. You grew up with me. I am using Fatty 15 to get me to feel and look the best I've ever felt at my age. The C15 nutrient has been known to strengthen our cells and slow the aging process at a cellular level. I urge you to try Fatty 15.
I am naturally biased because I just joined Ridge as the chief creative partner, but I'm just going to speak facts here. It's slim, it's RFID blocking, it's awesome, it's comfortable, I love it. I carry it every day. And then every wallet at Ridge.com has like an unlimited lifetime warranty, so you don't have to worry about it falling apart. Check it out at Ridge.com.
Homeowners, are you really covered?
You have your home fire insurance, flood insurance, accident insurance. But how about your plumbing, your electrical, your appliances?
Choice Home Warranty can help cover the repair or replacement of over 25 key systems and appliances. If one breaks down, it won't break the bank getting it repaired or replaced.
Your fridge, covered. Washer dryer, covered. Heating, covered. Your dishwasher, covered. Your AC, covered. Hot water heater, yep, that's covered too.
Join the more than 2.4 million homeowners nationwide that have protected their home with Choice. And Choice has a huge nationwide network of trusted technicians. Call Choice Home Warranty right now for special phone deals available today. And ask how you can get your first month free. Choice has been named the best home warranty company 6 years running and won awards for best claim service. With Choice Home Warranty, there's no home inspection, no commitment. Cancel anytime.
I can't count how many times I was charged a fortune for a specialist just to show up and they couldn't even fix my problems. Now, I'm covered with Choice Home Warranty for everything, from my AC to my ceiling fans. Your microwave? Covered. Your stove? Covered. With over 100,000 five-star customer reviews, Choice is a company they all trust to be covered. And now, so can you.
And if you call right now, you could get a special phone deal not available online. Plus, ask how to get your first month free.
Imagine avoiding shocking repair costs.
Call Choice Home Warranty now and find out how to get special deals only available on the phone. And ask how to get your first month free.
Call 800-998-3234.
Kibble. It's been the standard for decades, and it's failing our dogs. That's why we created Badlands Ranch Superfood Complete. It's gently air-dried, locking in the nutrients and the flavor dogs go wild for. Visit your local pet food retailer today.
As if you needed another one. Another example of how far left the Democrats have gone. Last night, Democrat socialist Malat Kairos defeated 15-term Congresswoman, 30-year Democrat, Diana DeGette, I don't know what her name is. It was a Colorado primary. Okay, this is going really far left over there. And this wasn't some moderate that she unseated. This is her congressional webpage, the 30-year Congressman incumbent. These are her own press releases. Extreme Republican funding bill. Donald Trump's shameful joint address. Republicans plan to gut Medicaid, which never happened. Unconstitutional federal funding freeze that the courts upheld. These are all like far left card-carrying Democrat policies. And then someone ran to the left of her and then won by like 6 points, which in politics is a blowout. Ladies and gentlemen, your new Democrat party.
And no, we will not wait to end the genocide in Palestine.
Cash bail isn't based on justice. It's punishment for poverty.
I think the claims that millionaires are going to leave our state are like super overblown. And if, the ones that leave, like, bye.
Yes, I still believe that all deportations are wrong.
Are we ready to abolish ICE?
I think we are seeing a hunger that is not just felt by New Yorkers, but frankly by Americans from coast to coast for a new kind of politics.
Look, I think this is great. This is fantastic. Keep running. You know what? Go even further left. Go more socialist. Find more things that haven't worked in the past and then make that your party platform. But even Kamala Harris, well, she's not that smart, but she's the presumptive front runner right now for the next Democrat presidential election. Somehow, I don't know how. She's even shifting further to the left with some of these nut jobs. But the best is, look who's celebrating. Look at this. All these self-hating white libs and their Tevas with socks think this is like some sort of great thing. I mean, rip Colorado. If this is your base and this woman wins the general election in Colorado, this is the problem. When all someone does is drink, I don't know what they do there, drink IPA craft beers and get degrees in basket weaving for all these people, that room right there probably holds the bulk of that district's student loan debt and probably nets the lowest amount of taxable income. Look at them. You'd have thought they won the lottery. No, they got the opposite of that. They get socialism, and they're cheering for it. But the ones that we said were crazy 2 to 3 years ago, remember this? This woman, Jayapal, remember her?
Donald Trump is the most corrupt president in modern history.
Because let's be clear, Donald Trump has been using all of these trials trying to incite further violence.
Donald Trump's Project 2025 is a takeover. Trump himself is now trying to say that it's not his. And to that, I say, bull.
So she was considered super far. Now she's not even on the radar for crazy in her party. So in an effort to not get primaried, she's trying to make it seem like the people to the left of her are still welcome in the party.
We're always told as progressives that we're a big tent party, that there has to be room for people who don't agree with progressives 100% of the time. That's got to be true the other way as well. If we are a big tent party, we have to have both sides of the big tent included.
By the way, the Democrat Party has the least diversity of thought of basically anyone ever in the history of politics, in the history of the world. Right, because socialism is what they're running on. 100 million people have been killed by socialism since its inception, maybe more. Yeah, but Dems are the big tent party for that. It's such a big tent, actually, and Brianna Lyman, one of our favorite guests here, pointed out the other day that this is the new roster of Democrats. A man with a Nazi tattoo from Maine, a man who fantasized about murdering his GOP colleagues and their children, one in Virginia, a former Al-Qaeda volunteer, a woman who funded a group to expressly destroy the United States of America. I would also add a bunch of commie socialists that would have been sentenced to prison if they espoused even a little bit of the views they are today back during the Cold War here in America. Because everything they talk about fails. Absolutely everything. San Francisco, perfect example. Everything the libs want. Far left, gay, legalized drugs. You got people like shooting heroin. They go into a vending machine, they're like, get a crack pipe, smoked it on the street. They got big spending. They got hybrid cars everywhere, electrical incentives and solar panels as far as the eye. They just voted for reparations, I think. And yet, it turns out, oh, weird, the worst run city in America. I mean, color me shocked. But you know what the best run city is? Run by exclusively Republicans. Provo, Utah. Technically, it's a nonpartisan board, but all the people on it are registered Republicans. I know, that's super weird. How could that possibly be? It's like the entire Democrat Party has become this party of petulant children that can't run anything. They have absolutely zero concept of money. They have no sense of responsibility. Hakeem Jeffries tries to put his own party's insanity, though, on Trump.
The reality is we have an unsettled electoral environment, which is going to be the case when Donald Trump is president.
No, it's because you, Hakeem, have absolutely no handle on your party. Remember when I said this like 5 years ago? I came on this network and I was like, dude, the social justice monster is definitely going to eat itself, which I'm here for, again, because when you traffic in grievances and insanity for the last, I don't know, since he came down that golden escalator like 11 years ago, Dems have literally rewarded people in their party for being like more insane, more disabled, more diverse, more gay, more weird, more radical. And now that has manifested in throwing out people that fostered it, like Hakeem Jeffries. Like, they were chanting, "You're next" at one of his rallies. I mean, it was unbelievable to see. I'm here for it. You got this guy, Abdul El Sayed. He's running for U.S. Senate in Michigan. Says he's going to choke out Republicans.
I'm not going to start the fight, but I'll end it.
I've heard it said that you said when they go low, we choke them out.
I mean, their choice to go low. Don't go low. I'm just saying.
Your party always starts fights. Then you run away and cry. You spit in cops' faces. You burn the flag. You tear down my history and our culture and our statues. And then you try to take successful people's money. You are starting the fight. It's pretty tough guy, obviously, sitting there in his size 38 jacket in an air-conditioned studio. Bro, you have no idea what you're talking about. These libs, Hassan Piker, they're all tough. Join the military or climb in the ring with me. I don't know. I never will. Anyway, before we go, San Diego. What are they doing for the 4th of July? I'll give you a hint. Not cool. Next.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
The Dutton Ranch. We're back in business.
You heard right. Let's go to work. I'm glad you're making friends, honey.
You're every bit as advertised.
You're damn right, yes.
Fighting a good fight, buddy.
Attention! Do you owe money to the IRS? If you owe $10,000 or more, you must hear this message because new Trump-era tax policy changes are providing relief to the American taxpayer. IRS policy changes in 2025 and 2026 have created new ways to resolve debt. Tax Relief Helpers knows exactly how to navigate them and could help you save thousands. Just call 800-357-9528 to protect your assets, home, and retirement.
I owed $87,000 in taxes. Tax Relief Helpers got the amount I owed down to just $3,500. I saved $83,500.
I got behind on my taxes and I owed $48,000. I called, and after they told me about the changes at the IRS, they got my bill fully removed.
We save Americans millions of dollars in tax debt every year, and we can help you. Call right now to take advantage of the latest Trump-era tax deductions to protect your assets, home, and retirement from the IRS. The call and consults are absolutely free. Call 800-357-9528. That's 800-357-9528. Attention! Do you owe money to the IRS? If you owe $10,000 or more, you must hear this message because new Trump-era tax policy changes are providing relief to the American taxpayer. IRS policy changes in 2025 and 2026 have created new ways to resolve debt. Tax Relief Helpers knows exactly how to navigate them and could help you save thousands. Just call 800-357-9528 to protect your assets, home, and retirement.
I owed $87,000 in taxes. Tax Relief Helpers got the amount I owed down to just $3,500. I saved $83,500.
I got behind on my taxes and I owed $48,000. I called, and after they told me about the changes at the IRS, they got my bill fully removed.
We save Americans millions of dollars in tax debt every year, and we can help you. Call right now to take advantage of the latest Trump-era tax deductions to protect your assets, home, and retirement from the IRS. The call and consults are absolutely free. Call 800-357-9528. That's 800-357-9528.
We're only a few days out from America's 250. Count on the Democrats to just hate America. Let's go look at San Diego's 4th of July itinerary. Well, here it is. Media statements, just sort of tribal inmate blessing, welcoming land acknowledgement, tribal invocation, national black anthem, tribal Latino stories, a bunch of other garbage. Here you got this alphabet soup here, the LGBTQ LMNOP community stories, black and African community stories, closing remarks, and then fireworks. Shocked they still have fireworks over there. I mean, isn't there a carbon footprint for that, Rob?
LGBTQ LMNOP.
Stories about alphabet people.
I like the bird, though. You got the eagle.
I mean, eagles, man.
Yeah, there you go.
Eagles and flyovers.
Got the flyovers.
Where's the ribeye? There's a flag.
Ribeye? Ribeye sounds good.
Anyway.
I don't know.
See you tomorrow, Rob.
This country's a mess. I guess it's our job to fix it. Good to see you, Carl.
It is.
All right.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.